The 18th century was a period of great cultural optimism, ideas of social progress, civilization, scientific exploration. Here in London we have the opportunity to study some of the key ideas of the Enlightenment within the very spaces in which those ideas were created and debated for the first time.
In the 18th Century Studies MA we have a core course which looks in depth at the Enlightenment. Ideas, objects, texts and arts. Meanwhile, students also take usually 2 modules in each semester at the same time, which is their free choice across a range of departments.
The absolute diversity of topics you can study on the course is really exciting. It's truly interdisciplinary. You might be studying courses on ritual in early modern culture, you might be looking at the history of sensibility in 18th century philosophy, French theatre and human rights, poetry, romantic poetry and women's writing. So you get this very layered picture of the 18th century and of its critical reception, which I think gives you a really rich sense of this fascinating period.
One of the outstanding features of this MA program, beyond its interdisciplinary nature, is what goes on outside of the classroom. We have wonderful connections with a variety of archives, museums, not just the British Museum, but also the Freemasons Museum, the Benjamin Franklin House, the Foundling Museum.
Our main and most important partnership is with the British Museum, who are the key partners in teaching our core course in the Enlightenment galleries.
I think the partnership with the British Museum is really important for the MA as a whole because it draws you into looking not only at texts, which obviously as a humanities scholar one would tend to look at, but draws you into really looking at material culture and objects and things and thinking about their role in the 18th century and in the Enlightenment as well, which is so often construed as something that's about old men in wigs. Thinking about philosophy is clearly more than that, and the British Museum partnership really shows off that connection.
I think the kind of student who thrives on the course is someone who's curious, enthusiastic, not necessarily hugely knowledgeable about the 18th century when they arrive, although obviously it's helpful to have studied some part of it.
Many types of students take this MA. They come from English, they come from music, they come from history or from other disciplines, and many different aspects of the 18th century might draw them to this programme. They might happen to love Jane Austen's novels, for instance, or they might be really interested in social history of the early 18th century. And the programme can really allow them to develop all their specific interests, but give them a very thorough grounding in things they might not yet have come across.
People might have that interest in the 18th century for a variety of reasons. There are lots of people who come straight from undergraduate to do the MA, I was one of those. There are also people who are interested in doing the MA simply because they've developed an interest in 18th century culture, who work in the museum sector and want to increase their knowledge of the 18th century.
The student group is very friendly, very cohesive. There are social activities as well as academic ones. We have a class outing somewhere, 18th century and fun in the summer. And so people make friends and learn also how to work together in a group and how to play together.
That spirit of dialogue and collaborative inquiry is a key element of the Enlightenment itself, and it's that spirit that we like to inculcate in our students on the MA in 18th century studies.